Welcome back, everyone, to Red Spotlight. I'm your host, Alexis Soto, joined by Alexis Moreno. This week, we're talking about House of the Dragon, as well as whatever else Alexis had to say about the Disney convention that no one's talking about now, because nothing happened. That's going to be our show this week here on Red Spotlight number 416. So last episode we had David on. We talked about a couple of things, a lot of film festivals, movies premiering, as well as, some trailers, some series that are coming up, and then also David's take on, what there was at the D23 convention. On the movie side of things, I made it pretty clear, on my end anyway, that it seemed like nothing, at least it felt very much like nothing new was announced. It was a convention of like, here are all the things that we announced last time that we didn't cancel. To be clear about that here, because the ones that we did cancel are still very much canceled, and we're not going to acknowledge they ever existed. But the ones that we haven't canceled just yet, let us just go ahead and open these up, and let's, just throw a couple of crumbs at the people who paid hundreds of dollars to be here. And that's kind of what happened. This, of course, is quite the momentous D23, because this is the first one that Alexis wasn't there to cover in person. She was elsewhere. So I gather that was kind of your impression as well, but I just wanted to give you the chance now that the whole thing, because last time you were on, we only had like one day of announcements that were made, or just one day. So now that the whole thing has, has been complete, what is your take?
The same.
Basically.
And a little bit more sour with the parks side of things.
Even more so than you were previously already were, because for those who are not aware, the parks aspect of Disney has not been great these past couple of years. If you thought the movies were lacking in announcements, perhaps the parks panel, which for a lot of Disney fans, including Alexis and I, that's kind of the bread and butter of the Disney empire, shall we say, that was even more of a clown show. Because if you thought that, things were so like bizarre, let's not gloss over this. It is the first convention in 3 years, and this company loves to tout this like convention as their space to really like wave their dick around and like drop a whole bunch of announcements about like what is moving, what is in development, what movies they're working on. And while there was some of that here and there, particularly with animation, across the board, there just wasn't any of that this year. And then with the parks panel, which I didn't see, but I did hear how that went. And I honestly part of me wasn't surprised, but it doesn't make it any less embarrassing as to like what went down, which is there were, again, to be fair to them, some announcements here and there about like what's new that's coming. But at the same time, and this was bizarre, if we're going to put it the most positive spin of light.
It was so weird. It was so dumb.
It's like, here's a bunch of things that we could do, or that we might do.
It's not even things that we're working on. It's things that we're bringing to you guys to see how you react. And then we'll go from there. A team effort.
Yeah, it's a far cry from what obviously people were expecting. And part of me did feel like, well, this is kind of why I said, on this show that people shouldn't have their expectations too big, because look who the people are in charge of this company now. But still, this is quite anemic compared to even I was expecting. But particularly with the parks and with Disney Imagineering, it really does show you how diminished they are in the eyes of this person who runs this company now. Because Disney Imagineering are the people responsible for why the parks, to this very day, and their new attractions and their new immersive themed experiences work. And the idea that half of their panel was like, we've been like following the Twitters and we've been seeing you guys bitch and moan and like, so we noticed the things that you guys, that we think you guys might enjoy. So we brought some of that, and while we're not at the moment developing anything like that, we want to use this to give you guys the impression that we're actually listening to what it is you want. And you know what? To be fair to them, with one thing, at least I felt listened to, which is the announcement of the Avengers attraction, which, again, to not be so fair to them, was something they announced last time, but was like quietly canceled in an earnings call last year, but now seemingly has been revived with a brand new concept and a brand new, I believe, ride system. I don't know what it is, quite frankly, but even that itself wasn't clear. They released concept art that seemingly suggests it's gonna go in Hollywoodland territory, but then I've seen other outlets cover this announcement as if it was still going to go behind the Quinn Jet area at Avengers Campus. I don't know.
They weren't too clear on it either.
They weren't too clear on it. Well, I'll tell you this, though. I think to me that's still the best announcement of the whole park scene, because that Avengers attraction can't come soon enough. It can't come soon enough because I was just there a few weeks ago. And by the way, though, real quick, as a brief aside, I really enjoyed the dioramas of the upcoming rethemed Toontown. That stuff looks really exciting.
That to me was that, and then obviously Tiana.
Yes,
were like the best things. Everything else,
yeah, I know.
There's a few things,
but that Toontown looks really awesome.
No, it does. I'm very excited. I'm very happy that it's not going away.
I'm very happy. You know what? Look, this is kind of the best worlds situation, because years and years ago, I believe even on this show, as a matter of fact, years back, I poked fun at the idea that I brought measuring tape with me on a trip to Disney, particularly with Toontown, because the rumor was at that point that Toontown was going to be replaced, and that would be the new location for Galaxy's Edge. Thankfully, that didn't end up happening, because as a matter of fact, I think like this is the only Toontown that's left in existence in any of the Disney parks around the world, which makes it all the more unique. But looking at like how they didn't just like said, okay, first of all, I don't even know how the hell they found the space to add in a third attraction for Mickey's Runaway Railway. But
well, to be fair, I think they took out
a cast member building, right?
Yeah. So
who cares about them, right? I'm kidding.
Got rid of half of them. They don't need it. That's probably their mindset.
I mean, they definitely they need raises is what they need. They need better working conditions. They need better health care, which Disney will not give them, and that is awful. And they should be, of course, attacked for that. To be clear, and we're obviously poking fun of the fact that Disney does not treat their cast members very well at all. That's just how things are on a different side of things. But they were able to find it, and in their defense, it looks very pretty. But I love that they didn't just like said, okay, well, we'll just add a third attraction. They realized how like momentous it was to bring this attraction, Runaway Railway, to California, that they took the opportunity to retheme the entire land, which I thought was like out of left field. And I was kind of scared that they were going to like, oh, oh, are you gonna like take out Roger Rabbit? No, he's still there.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So it's like, wow. And then I saw the diorama. So much better. And here's the difference. Less concrete, more greenery. And that makes a world of difference if you've seen that. Yeah. And I think to me, or just sticking on Toontown real quick, I think, I'm not sure if it was previously announced, but the Gadgets Go Coaster is being rethemed to Chip and Dale. Nice. Go Coaster, so that's nice. I love just the little details. Now this, I'll tell you, reminds you of classic Disney. Just the small little details that are being added with like the excitement of, oh, a beautiful new water fountain, or a bench being added here and there, or with more greenery comes more shade. Because let me tell you, one of the things about Toontown that didn't work was the fact that there wasn't much shade to begin with. Yes. And when the sun is beating down on you, Toontown is the last place you want to be. So as I've said throughout all of Disney, they need to add more shade, as much shade as possible. Because this climate change bullshit is not helping anything.
There's one thing that I wish that they would have added. By the way, I'm so excited for Mickey's Runaway Railway. Yes. I don't know if you've seen
that poster
of it.
That poster that they dropped for the convention was amazing.
I don't know if you've seen any footage of the ride.
I have, yes.
Oh,
yeah.
I am so excited. Like, this ride looks amazing, and I'm so jealous.
It screams classic Disneyland attraction.
Yes. I wish that they would do. Granted, I'm already happy with everything that we're getting there, but I did think about like the shade and stuff.
Yeah.
But I wish that they would add a section, kind of like the animation thing, the at DCA.
You mean the art of animation? You said okay,
but like the building. But just play Mickey shorts.
Ooh, I see what you're saying.
And maybe like a restaurant or something.
Now, on that scale, you mean? Because I do believe on Main Street, there's like one or two places you can just walk in there and they are playing Mickey shorts. All the variety, but not on the scale of which art of animation is at. Yeah, because I know in Disneyland Paris, there's a place in their version of Tomorrowland, where you go and eat and they're playing Mickey shorts in the back. Wow. And let me tell you, I was so happy because they played my favorite ones. That's great. That's great. So I think they should do something like that. You know what? Too. Yes, I agree with you. That's a really nice idea. Again, it's the small details and the small wins here that kind of, build up the whole piece. But I noticed the greenery and I thought like a lot of my disdain, shall we say, for what currently exists as Avengers Campus comes from the fact that it's just overtly and overly too concrete. Yes. It doesn't look good. I'm sorry, and I hardly ever say this, but and usually when you go in person, it's a lot better than the picture suggests. It's a lot worse when you see it in person because it's just like nothing to it and it's very minimalistic and it's very mid. Literally the best thing about Avengers Campus is that you do get to see the characters and the music playing in the background. And you got one great attraction. You just play a movie at home and you'll get the same effect. You got one great attraction in the form of Mission Breakout. And I always said, look, if this is the design you went with, the only thing that can save it for me are great attractions. Now, there's one that predates Avengers Campus itself, and the one they opened with was a rather unimpressive Spider-Man attraction that I still don't care to go on. That's kind of where it is. But my point was, you need more greenery if your design choice was all of this ugly concrete. Which it is rather ugly. So yeah, and then for California, there wasn't anything about Tomorrowland, which people were like expecting something would happen. Yeah. That was disappointing, of course. Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Not so much as a mention. No mention of Tarzan's Treehouse, or if that's ever coming back. I know Tiana is coming 2024, I believe. And we got some movement on that, so that's good to hear. San Francisco, is that what it is?
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
Going to be retheming the current Pacific Wharf, which, if you look at the concept art, most of the restaurants like Cocina Cucamonga are still there. So it's just a surface retheme, which is like, look, I'll give you this. You were able, I think it's impressive. I'll give you bonus points for this. You were able to slap IP on a non-IP part of the park, but still make it make sense in a California adventure theme park. So I'll give you that. And even more bonus points, the idea that you're going to be able to like put your old Golden Gate Bridge replica, shall we say, that was part of the old DCA and be able to reuse that. Okay. That might look kind of neat, shall we say. So, and hey, a Baymax meet and greet, no one's going to hate that. No one's going to hate that. I'll say this, the adults might hate that their beer might be replaced with Baymax. So that might have to move somewhere else. Because that place basically is the drinking spot of the park. Because, I mean, you have the food court. You have all the different restaurants, different kinds of foods there. But you also have your, like... And it's not the only place to buy, like, alcohol in the park. I'm just saying that's, like, the spot to sit and relax and enjoy. And it's also, like, right next to Cars Land, too. So, I'm hoping it's not going to congest that part of the park too much.
I know.
That's the thing, that's the concern. But you know what's also disappointing? It's like, you have two incredible IPs that are also amazingly representative of the people who live in that state, in the locals, shall we say, in Encanto and in Coco. And nothing? Like, Bob Chapek earlier in the year referred to Encanto as like their next big franchise. And so you do nothing with that? In terms of like park representation?
I know that they try to do it at certain times of the year, which, I mean, at least we get that, but like the what's it called? The Mexican restaurant at Disneyland. Why? Like, I get it. It's, you know, I love it, and I like that it's like themed in Mexico, whatever. But you can go ahead and slap that on Coco thing on there.
Sure,
like,
yeah. I mean, something. I
like,
mean,
you see Miguel there anyways already. Why not just do these things? I don't understand.
Also, both of those movies, I think, are like, they're so primed. They're like ready to go for a dark ride.
Yes.
So where are they? Like, they're that popular? It's like, to me, Encanto it was the next Frozen for this company. And you know, with Frozen, they did not miss an opportunity in the parks to shove Frozen in front of all of our faces. Where's that with Encanto?
Yeah.
That white bitch got all the attention. Can the brown cousins not get their, like... What'd you say?
I said I wasn't going to say that, but it did come to mind.
It did, like, yeah. She got all the attention. She got fucking, like, all... You know, she got shows and attractions. I'm sorry, why are her brown cousins not being included in that kind of show of force? It's the truth.
It is. It's 100% the truth.
It was ridiculous enough that it's been 5+ years since Coco and still nothing in terms of a dark ride. But now we're coming up on a year of Encanto. We just had a convention where they could have unveiled some plans. But nope. Nothing.
They said maybe.
It is incredible.
And it's so stupid that these are the two that they play with like that.
I can't explain it myself. Well, I believe they announced that, I don't remember if it was called Mix Magic or something. The parade that was technically new, but only had 2 weeks. But then it was closed because the pandemic was closed, and then it never came back. I hear that's coming back, so at least the parade will have at least it'll have a turn, you know?
Yeah.
Although I will say...
No, and honestly, it deserves it, because it was a really good parade, and it got cut down too short.
It cut down too short, and I'm sure, like, a lot of other projects that came out at that time, whether it be, like Onward, shall we say, I'm sure that movie wished it had a second chance somewhere, but that's never happening. Also, an updated version of World of Color, which I will say is, I think, sorely needed. It's nice that
we're getting a new fireworks show, right?
Yes. Although fireworks shows, they always get updated more, so I believe this is all for the 100th anniversary of the company. World of Color, right now, we're living in the year 2022. They're still playing the 2010 version.
Yeah.
It's time. It's time for an update. Although I'm a little scared, because when I say update, I think certain things need to be swapped out for the show in order for a more to me, a lot of the stuff where random characters pop up for a brief second, that should be cut in favor of a song here and there, because there's been so many movies since 2010. So I saw in the concept art, Encanto will be obviously featured. I just don't want the Little Mermaid section to go away, because that's a great beginning for World of Color. That's a great place to start.
Yeah.
But there are some things that can be swapped out. I'm sorry, I don't need to see the Chernabog demon get his own section. Sorry, Fantasia fans.
That'd be cool.
But yeah, everything else, it's yeah. So that's on that side of it. But as far as movies are concerned, I think that it's funny to me how with some projects they might have done more harm than good just by talking about them. I laughed my ass off so much when Kyle shared with me, I did not know this, that Jared Leto was involved in Haunted Mansion.
I didn't know this. Honestly, a lot of things that they announced it at D23, and some were good surprises, but others were what the fuck?
But it's no joke. It almost feels like that project was killed because Jared Leto's name is attached to it. And lately, anything that he's attached to just crashes and burns.
You come out with what's her name?
Jamie Lee Curtis as Madame Leota, and then Jared Leto's attached. You mean the Jared Leto that won a Razzie Award for his performance in House of Gucci? It's me. What's his name? Paolo. How could you? That was a strange film. It was funny. It was camp, but I don't think it was intended to be in moments like that. It was weird, but it just wasn't very good. But then, of course, had a smashing piece of shit in the name of Morbius earlier this year. This is a brief tangent. There are a lot of movies I haven't seen this year because I know they're bad. Part of me is should I just see them? But then if I see them, I'm going to hate myself for seeing them. And the movies I'm talking about are Morbius and Pinocchio. And I'm those movies are bad. Why would you watch them? Well, because if you watch them, then then you're free to attack them. But I already attacked them. So what is there to gain besides saying at the end of the year, oh, I watched this many movies? But then whatever.
Yeah. That one is the Haunted Mansion one is making me upset. And like, yeah, the Jared Leto thing. But honestly, like, we look at this year and what happened with Pinocchio.
Yep.
Where you have one that's just wild, and then we have another one that's like an actual like art piece.
Yep.
You know? And the one who did the art piece was supposed to work on this movie. This was like a passion project for him.
Yeah.
And it's not gonna happen. And the one that did the other movie is.
No, these idiots sorely misunderstand what fans wanted this to be. And I think it is a crime that they threw away the opportunity to collaborate with Guillermo del Toro for a Haunted Mansion movie. And I think they sorely underestimate how bitter a lot of people are about that. So, and then also not having the foresight to see how bad of an idea it is to collaborate with Jared Leto, who just seems to poison every project he's a part of. No, man, you fucked up, and you fucked up hard. And, yeah, no one's really excited about this the way that they should be.
Yeah.
So at this point in my mind, it'll come out. It'll probably be bad. It'll probably not be a success. And then in 10 years from now, they'll try again. That's just what makes this company frustrating. There was one other one that was on my mind just now, and I don't want to leave it because it was pretty bad. It was in the live action space. Oh yes, Mufasa. Mufasa the Lion King. Speaking of bizarre. So, The Godfather Part 2, this movie is known as one of the best sequels of all time, but in The Godfather Part 2, it's like half of it takes place in the past and half of it's in the present. And the half of the past is Robert De Niro, who plays Marlon Brando's character from the first movie as a younger man. They're clearly just going to rip off that movie, because this is what this is, Mufasa. And look, I suppose the fact that you have Best Picture winner, Moonlight's director, Barry Jenkins, working on this, instead of Jon Favreau, who in my view is becoming the face of the person who ruined Star Wars. Even though he's not, he didn't ruin anything. Although I think his brand of Star Wars is pretty. Well, it's not my taste, but I would go further in saying it's pretty vapid and surface level, and not much there, you know? And, you know, that is bound to improve upon the original, but I just think that movie looked so ugly, and those characters were non-existent. It's so hard to give a shit. Although, look, hey, we've been surprised, right? Sometimes, every now and then, they do just enough, and just doing the bare minimum can, like, wow. Because, you know, we did enjoy, as a group, anyway, Jungle Cruise and Cruella. They weren't great movies by any means, but there were enough good things in them. They were fun, and that's where it counts. And that's a lot more than what we've been used to from getting from them. So there's always a possibility. I'm confused, and I'm wondering what you think about this. In the animated realm, they announced a movie called Wish. A part of me is rather put off, if I'm going to be honest with you, and disgusted at the idea that some executive thought, you know, why don't we make a movie about the star that all of our famous fairy tales, you know, like When You Wish Upon a Star, let's make a movie about that star. I have a feeling it'll probably be worth, you know, that concept, and I suppose it qualifies as an original idea, but it's like the way that they presented it and the way that they talked about it, it came off as like a craven, like movie studio or movie executive talking point. It could have been presented a bit better. Ariana DeBose being a part of it is a big plus. I love her. She's an amazing performer. She's now an Academy Award-winning performer. And she's got a great fucking voice. So I'm happy to see her being involved. And of course, I think it's been no secret that a lot of us have been very happy with how both the Disney Animation and Pixar have been going. Speaking of Pixar, there was one big thing that we didn't really address. We probably should now.
Wait.
Yes.
Also, before we get into Pixar.
Yeah.
Wait, because, I think this is so Disney. I feel like they have not talked about the movie that's coming out in 2 months.
Thank you for it. Yeah, they're not. They haven't. They're not. Yeah.
I don't understand. Like, I feel...
Considering this was
like,
a 3-day
really know
convention,
what's happening.
They should have, like, been hyping up Strange World. That's the movie coming out in 2 months.
It makes no sense.
Yeah. They should have taken advantage by dropping a new trailer at minimum, but just, like, start promoting it and start, like, really hyping it up. And it wasn't.
John Krasinski is in it, isn't he?
I
don't understand. They have a huge cast.
Yeah. They dropped the ball on that one. They really did. I mean, to me, the most exciting project was barely mentioned. They gave it a poster, Peter and Wendy by David Lowery, coming, of course, on Disney+. Yeah, that just tells you the people that are in charge of these things, they don't know, like, the power of some of the stuff that they have on their hands. And they seemingly promote the wrong things. But Strange World, you are right. It is coming out in less than 2 months now.
It's just like, I don't like, they think that they can do what Netflix does. They think that they can do what, like, HBO, not HBO Max, but what HBO does, where they release their stuff on a streaming platform, but it's not the same because they're just a streaming platform. Whereas Disney, this is their 100th year.
Yeah.
They're known because of the work that they do, the movies that they put out. And when you don't put them out in a movie theater where they're kind of meant to be in, like, it makes it seem like they're, like, it cheapens it. Yeah. And I don't think they understand that.
Yeah. And of course, like, I don't want to be a pessimist here, but a part of me suspects maybe Bob Chapek was like, well, why spend all the money marketing when we know it's not going to do very well? When we know, especially, it'll do much better on Disney+. You can't help but wonder if that's part of the rationale for why it's not being hyped up as much. And if that's the case, boo. I'm sorry. Like, yes, it can do great for you on Disney+, but these are meant for the theater. Promote them as such, please. Come on. So Pixar announced they're doing Inside Out 2. I suppose when you put this up against a lot of the other ideas that became sequels at Pixar, it's not too out there in terms of like, oh, there could be a story here. And if that's the case, okay, well, let's see what it is. But I think it's fair to point out, I don't think they've delivered a great sequel. Not a good sequel, I mean a great fucking sequel. Since 2010. I am... You can't help but wonder if this is just Disney again, pushing Pixar's buttons here. Because how do you explain Lightyear? Lightyear does not, the movie Lightyear, I should be clear, does not really go with Turning Red, Luca, or Onward, or Soul.
Mm-hmm.
But now you also have Inside Out 2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know. I suppose it's possible this could be great. It's Pete Docter, right? Working on it again, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
So there's that, but the fact that it's a sequel, just like, okay, well, I mean, you know, Pixar and Disney Animation are the only places left anymore where Disney is okay with doing original ideas and new stories. And the idea that they still insist on mandating sequels with both of them is just infuriating. So that's what I have to say about that. What about you with Inside Out 2?
I'm fine with the sequel. I just don't like the story that they're going with.
It's pretty messed up that some of the cast were basically replaced when they wouldn't accept the low pay rates. Mindy Kaling and Bill Hader among them refused to come back for the sequel because they thought that the amount of money that they were being basically rated for was too low. And hilariously enough, the concept was tweaked where all of a sudden their characters were no longer needed for this sequel. Funny how things work in this business, right?
I think that they should have... Well, David's the one that presented this, and I agree that they should have done a completely new character to play Riley or someone similar to Riley. And it gives them room to do more things. Like, I get it, Riley is older and they can do more things, but they can bring new experiences, you know, for kids, because ultimately this is a kids movie. They can bring new attention to different family dynamics. They can, I don't know, I just think that they could do so much, and they're doing like the most basic thing.
Yeah. Basically, right. I don't know what's happening with Star Wars. And they don't seem to either. There are no new movies coming.
And they keep canceling shows and like...
Anyway. There's that. I wanted to ask you before we move on to House of the Dragon. Have you seen any She-Hulk?
No.
Okay. And that's our She-Hulk segment of the week, everybody. All right. Let's go ahead and get into what everyone wants to hear, and that is, of course, Hot D, House of the Dragon. We discussed briefly last week the 4th episode, but now Alexis is here with us, so we can dive deep into it. Episode 4 was...
interesting.
Yes, a lot of people got it on. Some people didn't want to get it on with the particular people they were with. Some of them had a change of heart while they were attempting to get it on. And then I think it's fair to say some mistakes were made. And yeah, I already gave my thoughts on last week for the 4th episode, so I want to go ahead and start off with Alexis and see what she thought.
Episode 4, even after watching episode 5, is my favorite episode so far. I think, I don't know. It was really cringeworthy, and a lot of things happened that you're just like, oh, like, nails on a chalkboard that you're just like, oh god. But the things that do happen set up so much for the characters and say so much about each character that you're just like, oh my god. This show is so messy and it's so good. I love it. I mean, obviously, like, the main ones are Rhaenyra and Alicent. And the way that they put them, like, opposite of one another is so interesting. And as I mentioned before, I haven't read the book, but I have kind of a good idea of what happens with both of them. And I thought, because I listened to your guys' episode, and I was laughing listening to it because David, it's a little bit of a spoiler, but I think you could, after watching episode 5, I think you guys kind of know where it's going, hopefully. But when he said that he's rooting for Alicent, I was dying. I was like, oh, well. And this happened to a lot of people too, because a lot of people from the beginning were also rooting for Christian. So I know that, like, the people in the
You mean
fandom
Kristen?
Kristen.
Not Christian.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
What'd I say? Christian?
Christian, yeah.
Oh. A lot of people who've read the books would start laughing at other people, being like, oh my god, I love him, because it's no. And I told David this, that, like, the number one thing that I got from doing my research on the book, you will hate Alicent and you will hate the Night's Guard.
Well, I think both of those predictions that evidently you saw coming a mile away have been proven to be true with both of those people. And the thing is, look, I feel like this is a bit of a different situation here, because the people that happen to be in charge with Viserys and Rhaenyra, here's the twist. You like them.
Yeah.
And you want only good for them.
Mm-hmm.
And every episode, it's like, you're like, all right, team, let's go out there. Let's do this. Let's get this thing situated. And it almost goes swimmingly, but then one little thing fucks it up. And right now, it's just... it's a misunderstanding on top of a misunderstanding, and every person on this show has made mistakes that contributed. So. No, well, when I say it's a misunderstanding, I'm saying, like, I think either Alicent may not. Wait, you know what? Hold on, let me backtrack here. Let me backtrack. Okay, so if I'm going to be charitable, I am far more understanding and sympathetic with Alicent than I am with Kristen. Sir Kristen, I think, just went insane. And we'll get to him in a minute.
Yeah, no. Well, let's go back to the 4th episode.
Yes.
So, what I am trying to say also is that in the books, you don't know why Alicent is the way that she is with Rhaenyra in the future. Some of the things that they changed are that they made Alicent younger. Right. They made her the same age as Rhaenyra. And we did not know that they were friends in the books. We never got that. We never thought that that was a thing, that they were friends. So that's one thing, a big thing that they changed. And they made her character more sympathetic in these, like, we get her background, basically. And even people that have read the books and are watching the show are saying, like, wow, it's kind of hard to think of her as a bad person when she's older because of the things that we're seeing. But my thing, and it takes place in the 4th episode, is that, because I was talking to David about this, that the way that I perceived Alicent by the things that I was reading is you can kind of describe her as a really big Christian Karen. They kind of explain this in the show, but like not really. So where she is from and where her family is from,
Old Town.
That's where what's it called? The church thing? The
High Scepter?
That's where they are. Like basically like the Vatican in today's world, I guess. They live right next to that. So they're very religious, and they're like the house that like upholds the religion the most. And so when everything happens and Alicent has that conversation in the Godswood with Rhaenyra after everything happens, and the way that she's like judging her.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, no, I don't like her. Like, I obviously, like, I feel bad for what she's going through. Because obviously, like, you don't want anybody, not even your worst enemy, to go through what she's going through. But she's not innocent either. And she can't, like, the fact that she basically, like, slut-shames Rhaenyra instead of just being, like, I don't know, like, being open about it and trying to help her and, you know, trying to figure things out. She instantly just, like, attacks her.
Yes.
You know? Yeah, I'm not a fan.
What would you think would have happened if Rhaenyra had admitted to what happened?
I honestly don't know. I think that she still would have done things that she's doing right or is going to do.
Because I think from like Alicent's perspective, she probably is she is pissed off that her dad was fired for telling the truth.
Yeah.
And she also, on a double-edged sword, was lied to directly to her face by Rhaenyra. Mm-hmm. That's like
in a big way.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, Rhaenyra swore on her mother's deathbed. Like,
yeah. All the while, and I don't mean to jump into the next episode, but it also happened in the fourth one. You know, in the third episode, she seemed to not necessarily be overly susceptible to manipulation by her father when she intervened and, like, persuaded Viserys to get involved in the Stepstones, the conflict that was going on there. But there's something weird happening that didn't get addressed in either of the episodes. The King's new hand, Sir Lionel Strong. He has 2 sons. Mm-hmm. And one of which was introduced in the most shady way imaginable and was like, oh, by the way, my queen, I don't mean to, pry. I'm just concerned about Rhaenyra's health because, I just heard that the Maester cooked up an abortion tea. And of course, Alicent knew what that was. And you can't help but wonder, well, you see that, okay, partly she's being moved in a certain direction by some players. What's going on there? What is Strong planning? I mean, you seem to already know. But, like, because that's the one aspect of this that's not so much talked about. Because
yeah. That's the only thing that I think that the show has going against it is the time jumps that we don't. So Lionel plays a huge character, like
yes,
big. Actually, the Strong family does. His brother Harwin is going to be a big player later on.
That's his brother, not his son.
So it's Lionel Strong, the Hand, and then Harwin Strong, which is the one in the 5th episode who carries Rhaenyra out of the wedding, and then Larys, which is the skinny one.
Right.
Harwin Strong, he's known as Breakbones. You can imagine what that means. And then Laris is known as Clubfoot because he has a club foot.
Right.
And that's not the first introduction that we get from him. The first introduction that we get from him is in the second episode. During the hunt, he's the one that goes and sits down with all the women, claiming that he's tired, he can't walk, and he's there listening to all the gossip.
I see what he is. Okay.
So, yes, that again, that's a big thing that the show has going against it, is that if you don't know the books, you don't pay attention to these small things, which is fine. Like, you don't have to, because then we see it here. But then the way that they presented it here is very, like, on the nose.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit strange. It felt very out of place, you know? And it's because we don't get time to see these characters. And I do think that, I mean, I don't know. We're not done with the season. We're only halfway. But we're done with these actors.
Yeah, I'm scared. I'm scared.
I feel like
about
there was so much more story here.
There
left
was.
To tell.
Yeah.
They should have done one or two. They should have done what The Crown does, honestly. But also, like, I guess I kind of understand, you know, the way that the last show ended wasn't great. And so maybe they were just scared that it wasn't going to work.
Also, I mean, these time jumps are not so consistent. They're very random. Mm-hmm. Like, the next episode, we're jumping a whole 10 years. I'm like, that's a whole 10 years, man.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see what happens there.
Yeah. Like, I know we're skipping ahead, but we're not going to get to see what happens to, what's his name? I forgot what it was. Kristen?
Kristen.
What happens immediately after? I don't know if you saw ahead, but in the trailer for the next episode, we do know that he's there, but we don't see what happens immediately.
No, I saw that and that pissed me off.
Yeah.
That ending pissed me off in so many ways. You have no idea. The fact that he's alive, I'm not happy about that. And that's also making Alicent less, sympathetic in my eyes.
Yes.
That she stopped him from committing suicide.
Yes. But I do think that Alicent is such an interesting character, and I'm so happy that we did get to see kind of an origin story for her, because she, in these 5 episodes, she went from this innocent kid to a player in the game.
Yeah.
And that is very interesting. And she didn't die. So
it makes it so much more like of a knife to twist that this is like, well, this is the wife of the king. This used to be Rhaenyra's best friend and now stepmother. And it's a lot. It's a lot to deal with, obviously. So the former hand, Otto Hightower, was basically fired, and he left. And the warning he gave his daughter, one that I think, rings true, is the king is going to die. He's not going to be an old man, whether it takes months or years, and you need to prepare yourself when he says to her daughter. Because look, there is, I think from Otto's perspective, a realistic threat to his grandchildren, Aegon, Alicent's daughter. The same way that Rhaenys is concerned, and she voices her concerns to Corlys, right? Is it Corlys?
Mm-hmm.
Right after they met with the king, and they're talking about the proposal to wed, their son off to Rhaenyra. And Rhaenys is like, look, I already put this bullshit behind me. Also, do you realize what immense danger this puts all of us in? Because I mean, they're not fools. The reason they know that the whole reason for why the king wants this arrangement is to strengthen the claim of Rhaenyra to become queen, which everyone on the show knows is something the lords of the land will not accept.
Mm-hmm.
And so when war inevitably breaks out, as Rhaenys can clearly see it, she can see that her entire family will be caught in the crosshairs because of that. The same way Otto feels justified in thinking that if that's the case, well then, the only option Rhaenyra will have would be to kill her brother. Which, on this show, so far the Rhaenyra we've seen, Rhaenyra is not capable of something like that. At least the Rhaenyra that we've seen. Another Targaryen would be, but not her in this moment. So, but you see what a dangerous game everyone is playing at. It's a lot of high stakes here. And I think that really does scare Alicent into like that. When you mix that with her trust in both her husband and Rhaenyra just collapsing and falling apart at the seams, when you mix those two things together, you can see where Alicent goes in the direction that she goes. When she purposefully waits until the last minute and she makes her entrance in the middle of Viserys' speech, let me tell you something, that made an impression. Well, as a viewer, that definitely made an impression on me. Because I was like, wow, you bitch. You waited until this moment, and I love how she just stood there, basked in the moment, picked up her dress, and then slowly walked down those steps, made her long way over to the table, with people slowly like standing up, realizing the queen was there, and that dress, which was gorgeous, obviously, but of course, mixed with what Larys was saying, that those happen to be the colors for her bannermen when they go to war. It literally was a call to arms as well. And then when she so coldly approaches the table and says to Rhaenyra, "Congratulations, stepdaughter." Like, ooh, just wow. And the music that accompanied that moment.
So good.
Seriously, so good, so good.
No, everything that they done with Alicent has been so good. And even with not just this costume, all of the costumes that she's been wearing, which is not a lot. She, like, this entire time she's been manipulated, even with Otto's conversation, the last conversation that they had.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he fully believes in what he's saying, but the fact that he's saying it to her, and then to go and be like, "This is your fault," like, bitch. You know, like, she's been controlled this entire time, and she doesn't know who she is. She doesn't know, like, you know,
well, who to trust also.
Yeah. We see her in her mother's dress because her dad told her to wear it. We see her in the Targaryen colors because that's who she thinks she has to be. And now she's found herself, but not in the best way and not in the best circumstances. So the whole green thing, that's a huge thing in the books too, because the entire time in the book she wears green. And like, that's what she's called the Green Queen, and the whole Dance of Dragons thing, it's the greens versus the blacks, meaning Alicent versus Rhaenyra.
Wow.
So that's a huge thing.
Damn. Also, like, props to her for being able to top Daemon's entrance to that wedding.
Yes.
What a wedding, by the way. But it's just like awkwardness on top of awkwardness. Everybody is there. And then Daemon walks in. Everybody was like, just stops and looks. The king's like, without even, by the way, Paddy Constantine's facial expressions throughout this whole episode were amazing. Any of the episodes. But the look on his face when Daemon walks in can be read like, bitch, really?
Yeah.
Really? And then
what
when
more could happen?
Really? And then he has no choice but to offer him a seat at the table.
He has a choice. He's just too scared to do anything.
I think part of him is just like, wow, the balls of you to show up here? Fine, I'll give you a seat.
Yeah. And that conversation that he has with Laris in this episode. Not Laris, I'm sorry. Lionel.
Yeah.
The whole... I feel... I don't remember the exact words, but him like, I feel like I wish I would have been tested. Sir, you were tested the entire time. But you just chose to not do anything. You made the wrong choice. That was a frustrating conversation. Yeah,
it wasn't tested in the way that he would have wanted it to. He was tested with a series of smaller decisions that just went very poorly. But it was funny just to see, Damon walk in there just like that.
And then when they talked to him about his wife, and he's like, "Oh, tragic. Oh."
No, but seriously, earlier in the episode, when you see, when they travel over to see Corliss, which, by the way, cannot believe they made him travel in the condition he was in. He looked awful.
They didn't make him. He chose.
You shouldn't have done that.
I know.
But he did it. But it was worth it for this. When Lionel and the king, Viserys, are informed by Rhaenys that Daemon's wife was, like, tragically passed away, I lost my shit because the look on Viserys' face, because he's, like, looking inward.
Yeah.
And just, like, processing. And he's like, he didn't. And then he looks at Lionel. And they look at each other, it's like...
Yeah.
And we know what that look is.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
Like, he fucking killed his wife. He fucking went and killed his wife.
Yeah. That one is also... is also funny in the books because we never meet his wife in the books. All we know is that they hated each other. Daemon especially hated her and would always talk crap about her, saying she was the worst person, blah, blah, blah. And then we find out that she dies by a cracked skull because of her horse. But we don't know what happens. Like, we don't know if it was just an accident. That's how they present it, but they write it in a way where you kind of are like, Daemon fucking did it. So it's funny that they kind of added that in the show with Viserys and Corliss.
And I thought it was also even funnier. It's like, wow, how suave he is, because not only did he have the balls to walk in there, but when, like, the wife's cousin, like, tries to, like, bring this up and stand up to him in a way. I love Damon's response, which is like, yes, tragic. But doesn't all of the things that she was going to inherit fall to me now? Like, he basically got a piece of land, property. It's like, oh shit. And they just, like, backed off.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that would not have ended well for him. But, like, everybody knows he killed her.
Yeah.
Everybody knows.
But they're not sure. But they're like, I don't know.
It's so suspect. I mean,
I honestly, I love that they make it so, like, because even when they are showing you, like, you don't see him killing her, you know? So they leave it very, like, well, like, what happened after that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, like, they also leave it as, like, did he go there to kill her? Did he mean to do that? Like, or was he provoked? Like,
yeah,
why was he there? Was he just checking in on her? Like, you know what I mean?
Yes. It wasn't, it was presented a little bit vague.
Yes.
At least as far as we can see. real quick, before we move off of Damon, what the fuck was he trying to do with Rhaenyra? Like, was he trying to actually cause a scene at that wedding?
I think that he doesn't know what he wants.
Okay. He's just an agent of chaos?
Yes.
It's just what it is. Like, well, the one thing he wants is the throne. He's just not sure. He's not sure what's the best way to go at it, and he's trying all the different ways, but he's not patient enough to actually wait into the long game.
I think that he wants the throne, but say what you will about him, we know that he's a shitty guy. He doesn't want to get it in a bad way.
Yeah.
If, like, yes, he's done shitty things again, but ultimately, like, the thing that makes us like him is that he does have a soft spot for his family. Right. Like, he cares about his family.
Some more than others.
Some more than others, yes. But it's like that thing. I don't know if you've seen, like, that trope in couples where, like, he's shitty to everybody else except your girl type of thing. That's I think how it is with him. And he also has this thing of, like, he thinks that he's, like, the smartest person in the room. And when somebody else kind of catches him off guard, he's like, oh shit. Okay, yeah. I don't like this anymore. Let's back away. You know? And that's how he feels with Rhaenyra. Like, he doesn't know if he likes it or not. He doesn't know, like, she always, like, surprises him, I think.
Now to the other stuff where, all right, what was Corlys and Rhaenys's son? What's his name?
Laenor. I can't pronounce his name. Laenor. Yeah.
Is it Laenor or Leonor?
O-R.
Like Lenor?
Yeah. Lenore?
Yeah, it's Lenore. No, I don't think it's Lenore. It's like Laenor. Anyway.
Him.
So it is interesting. Like, everybody seems to, like, know he's involved with boys. Mm-hmm. No one seems to care too much. Mm-mm. But of course it doesn't matter. Here's the thing. The scene where he and Rhaenyra basically make their agreement. It's a great scene. I loved where they were at. It was a beautiful beach. It's a great arrangement, and dare I say, it's one where everybody, like, walked away happy from it. Considering how hard it was to get here, Viserys walked away happy. Rhaenys and Corlys walked away happy. Both Leonor and Rhaenyra walked away happy with this arrangement. It's like, it's a win-win for everybody. Yeah, it's a marriage in name only, and, you know, we're free to pursue our appetites as we please. Okay. You know, mental health is such an important thing. And granted, most people aren't very good protectors of their mental health. But when you see it, you see it. And that is when you see some kind of terrible imbalance within oneself. And to me, being obsessed with honor, and this is across all kinds of media and stories, always leads to this kind of downfall, because when you take your oath too seriously, it can really break you, the way Kristen Cole was broken several times in this episode. He didn't come across as this deluded in his previous appearances, but I thought it was I was laughing my ass off when like they were on the trip back and like he seriously not only proposes to Rhaenyra, but like offers an escape from the crown and her whole family and everything. And the way that he presents that information, with such glee in his eyes, as if that's a real possibility. What a deluded son of a bitch to think that's something that could be. And I think there's a moment there where Rhaenyra turns around and she like briefly considers it. Like part of her is somewhat excited by that notion. Mm-hmm. But then she thinks it's like, no, that's not what I want. No, I'm not going to do that. And I think what makes him deluded more so than offering that in the first place is him somehow thinking that was going to happen. And he's so very clearly disappointed by it. I thought Grace Randolph's reaction was perfect when I saw her video. It was like, yeah, Rhaenyra should have had like a talk with some of the other Kingsguards, the knights I mean, and just like arrange an accident to befall Kristen, because you could see it coming a mile away. No, that's not good. Mm-hmm. Letting him walk away with him not being clearly in agreement with what this is a liability for everybody involved.
Also, might I add, yes, I think that what Rhaenyra did with him, without kind of communicating what was happening, because clearly, like, what happened with them was only happened because it didn't happen with Daemon, and like it was ultimately his fault for thinking it was something more than it was. But also, let's not take away the fact that he did take an oath, and all these things, and Rhaenyra just kind of like is like, whatever, when we also have to remember that this is like the reason why he takes it so seriously is because he came from nothing. Like, he should not have been assigned to Rhaenyra, if that makes sense, because there was others in the Kingsguard who were technically more qualified, even though they've never fought. But I mean, in like that their houses are more respected than him. He doesn't really have a house, if anything. And so the fact that she doesn't take that part seriously, like, does bother me, because she should, but she doesn't because she's privileged. But the fact that in that conversation, he later then says, I thought that this was a way I could restore what I lost. Oh, hell no. Bitch. No, I can't.
Yeah. It's not always about you, first of all, Kristen. There are far grander designs at play than your honor. So go fuck yourself on that. And then also the idea of like, oh, did you not hear yourself? Because that sounded a lot like, oh, you really wanted to marry this girl to make it okay to yourself that you did this in the first place. I see what this is here. Not good, Kristen. Not good at all. On top of being deluded, now that's quite douchey, to be kind to you at that point. To think of that. But okay. But then you had to go and ruin all of it. So, look, Game of Thrones, and I've even seen particularly some LGBTQ critics and reviewers also bring this up, in that Game of Thrones history with gay characters has not been kind at all. In that most, if not all of them have been murdered quite horribly on the show.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny how the thing that sets Kristen Cole off happens to be the gay lover, also I guess protector of Leonor. And yes, he did become a bit over. He also misread the room when it came to, to Kristen Cole and everything. But I mean, he read it perfectly when it came like who the person was, but it was not a good idea to just go up to him and say, "Hey, we're all in an open arrangement here."
Mm-hmm.
It's also not a good look on the show that it was the gay guy that set Kristen off, and then also it was the gay guy that was viciously mutilated by that guy, by Kristen Cole. But again, that's just optics. I'm not saying that was intentional or by design. It's just not a good look. It's just what it is.
Yeah. Well, that actually does happen in the book.
Right. So, and then that's fine.
It doesn't happen the way that it happens here. It happens at attorney.
But here's what makes it frustrating as a viewer. Not frustrating from I guess a critical standpoint, but as just somebody who's watching this show, like, man, poor Paddy Constantine was just trying to eat his food. He was just trying. He could barely eat it, right? He was just trying to enjoy his time. But he's like, there's so many fucking like awkward shit going on, and he's distracted by all the people on the dance floor. Then out of nowhere, a fucking fight breaks out, and for like I guess a few seconds there, people start screaming. You hear commotion, but you're from the perspective of everybody at the high table, and you're like, you as a viewer are wondering what the fuck's going on, and they don't show you for a while. And it takes a long time. So what basically happens is Kristen Cole is beating the crap out of Leonor's lover, and then viciously murders him. There are a couple things here that really bothered me. Not so much as like a critic reviewing this episode, but as if just like if I were in this world. Okay, so I know this is Game of Thrones and it's a wedding, and of course a wedding ends this way in Game of Thrones. I guess it's par for the course. But here's the thing. First of all, why was Cole allowed to walk away from killing somebody like that? At a wedding? At a wedding put on by the king? Like, no one cared about the person that got killed, and Kristen Cole was just able to walk away. That shouldn't have happened. That's one of several things that shouldn't have happened. Not just because of the guy that he killed, but because I'm not sure if anybody gave a fuck or saw clearly, but I saw it clearly, right? Like, Cole struck Leonor.
Mm-hmm.
That can't be allowed in medieval times like that. Like that's an offense punishable by death. That's the future king consort of Westeros. That alone should have been reason enough to not let him walk away from that.
Yeah.
Also, on top of all of that, he put multiple heirs of House Valerian and House Targaryen at risk because of that.
Yeah.
And more to the point, what the fuck were the knights doing?
Yeah.
Like, I know, like, Corlys and Viserys were confused because they were farthest away from it, but the knights were just fucking standing there like, huh?
Yeah,
did you not think really that when you watched that? Like, people are. I was like screaming at the TV. Why are you standing there? Do something.
Yeah. At the end, I was like, "What the fuck happened?" And they just kind of leave it up to you to imagine what happened.
The knights themselves were probably thinking that too. Like, what the fuck happened? And then while they just stand there and do nothing.
Yeah.
And it takes for like fucking Lionel to like signal to his brother to go like get the princess out of there? Like, yeah, you should have done that immediately. Like, there were multiple heirs that were in the crosshairs of that.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you doing? I would fire all of those people. That's not good security. It's hilarious. And then, of course, it ends the way that it does. And Leonor is just, like, completely devastated, crying there on the floor, while people are just staring, like, not knowing what to do. Then Kristen walks away. Then we cut to Viserys, I guess, off-screen decides, all right, you know what? Fuck this shit. We're not waiting a week. We're getting married now.
Yeah.
And then as soon as it's done, which Leonor can barely even speak because of how heartbroken and devastated he is, which was so sad to hear. As soon as the deed is done, the king was like, fuck it, and then just collapses. What a fucking disaster. What
also,
a fucking
might I add
disaster.
that the lover is named Joffrey.
Was he? That's funny. And he was killed at this wedding.
At a wedding.
Yeah.
That they are also calling the Green Wedding.
The Green Wedding. See, this one, though, it doesn't compare in terms of, like, shock. Because with Joffrey, we were all happy to see him die. But then with the Red Wedding...
Yeah, the Red Wedding, I think, still takes the cake.
Those were just, like, overtly horrific and premeditated and planned. This was just a horrible accident. This is just it was tragic what happened, but it was also...
It was not an accident.
Well, it wasn't premeditated.
Okay.
Like, he snapped, right?
Yeah.
Like, nobody went into this wedding with, like, machinations of murder, right? Like, Cole just fucking snapped. And then he killed him, but then everybody is just left with, like, well, that's a bummer.
Yeah. That's why I say, like, I hate that we're not gonna see what happens, like, after.
We should have seen an episode in the aftermath of this. Is like, I would have liked to have seen an episode where the king just yells at everybody, what the fuck happened?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That sucks.
And then explain to me how on top of all of these crimes that Cole committed, he is allowed to live.
So my theory is, so in that conversation that he has with Alicent in her room, where he kind of confesses what him and Rhaenyra did.
Quite stupidly, as a matter of fact.
Yes. That was kind of Alicent also confirming what her dad was trying to tell her. I think that she was thinking that Rhaenyra was trying to get all of the King's Guard on her side, and leave Alicent and her kids kind of unprotected in a way. Like, I think that that's what she was thinking. And also, like, the fact that this was somebody that clearly Rhaenyra liked, and she's a petty bitch. She was like, this is my chance to sweep him away.
Oh, man. Oh, boy.
Interesting. I'm excited for, like, obviously what we're gonna see, but I am also very sad at the things that we're not gonna get to see. Like, I don't know if you've seen, like, a couple of the deleted scenes.
No, I have not.
But what's it called? The Valerian sister, I forgot her name. The one that dances with Daemon?
Mm-hmm.
She also becomes bigger later on, but she should have been in the story a lot more. mainly because she is the one that rides the biggest dragon in Westeros. And we are barely gonna hopefully see that soon. And like the fact that we started off with her so young and we don't get to see her claim that dragon is so weird to me. Because so this dragon, so obviously we find out in that first episode, Balerion, which is like the skull that's in the basement, he's the biggest dragon that came from Valeria, and Vhagar is the second biggest dragon after him, and she claims him, which is a huge deal because I think there was only 3 dragons at the time that came from Valeria. The rest are just, they don't come from there, but obviously like they're descendants. So that's like a huge deal. Like she's a badass. So it's interesting that she has not, that this is like the second scene that we see with her.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious to see, though.
And the fact that I feel like we have gotten a lot of dragons, but I feel like we haven't gotten enough in a show called The House of the Dragon. Where there is supposed to be a lot of dragons.
I know, right?
So it's kind of interesting.
Are you ready for the new actors to take over?
I am. But I am sad because these were great.
Yeah. In that preview, that 10-year time jump, wow. How is Viserys still alive? He looks awful. He does not look good.
Did I send you that picture of him?
What's happening to him?
He's just dying.
Yes,
well,
but
the
like
actor,
of what?
I don't know if you saw, but the actor came out saying that his official diagnosis is leprosy.
Really?
Yeah. So he's literally decaying.
How exactly do the leeches help him?
I don't know. I think that are you talking about that one scene?
Yeah.
So that is like a theory that people have, that they think that the Grand Maesters are the one that kind of orchestrated everything. And I think it was just kind of a little nod of like, are they or aren't they?
What do you think about the Grand Maesters? Did they orchestrate this, or are they just that stupid?
We don't know.
That's fucked up.
Yeah. And it becomes a bigger deal later on, when he meets his final days. But we'll get to that later, I guess. Sooner rather than later, probably.
Yeah, I guess at this rate. Anything else to say on where we're going to go with House of the Dragon? I mean, so far, I think it's pretty clear we're loving it, right? I look forward to it every week.
What about you? What do you think is there anything that you wish to see, or anything that you think is going to happen? Or?
I don't know, actually. I don't know. I don't know I don't have the foggiest idea of what's going to happen to Daemon or how he plays into all of this. I just want the best for them, you know? And that continuously seems to elude them on a weekly basis. They almost have it all, but then it crawls. It just completely falls apart. So what I do want, though, is recognition at the Emmys next year, because some of these actors, like Petty Constantine, should be recognized for his performance on the show. So there's that. Anyway, if that's the case, we're going to go ahead and end it off here. Thank you so much for listening to Red Spotlight. We will be back next week for more content, including House of the Dragon and whatever else we happen to see. You can catch us anywhere you listen to podcasts, Spotify or Apple or anything else. And we will see you next time. Bye-bye.